We are at our final conversation, our final panel for the day. And I'm really excited about this one because to me, I came up with this idea because it, to me, embodies a lot of what I think about when I think about Black in media. A lot of why I came up with the idea and founded Black in media. It's just the idea of the reach of our stories. There's so many ways that we haven't told our stories yet, or that haven't necessarily gotten the reach that they should. So again, my name is Treye Green, and I am the founder of Black in Media. Black in Media has been around for over a year now. I founded it last July, and I came up with the idea of just wanting a place where Black media professionals weren't led by our trauma. You know, there's so much more to what we do than the harrowing situations that we face and that we have to deal with, sometimes from day to day, depending on your work situation. And I think that there's a lot of space to talk about those negative feelings and those negative experiences, but I don't always see the same energy being put toward really parsing into the work we do, really highlighting and talking about how amazing our content is as Black media folk, and also just the heart that's behind it. You know, telling Black stories is in a lot of cases why many of us got into media. We wanted to see ourselves more. We wanted to highlight the places and the people and the history that we knew was being overlooked. So that was a large motivation. Last year, it was only Black in Media Day, like just the social media campaign and that part of the celebration, which is also, today is Ida B. Wells' birthday. And I chose July 16th specifically to also honor her and her work as an investigative journalist and really paving the way and still serving as an inspiration for so many journalists now, and people that work in media. And I'll add that when I say media professional, I've been making that disclaimer that media professional is truly anybody that makes media. I think a lot of times when they hear media professional or people hear media professional, they think journalist. But for Black in media, media professional is anyone who works in tandem with and closest to some form of media. So I'm thinking marketing, PR, HR, that can be a part of media and helping keep media organizations, running and all that kind of stuff. Whether you're an influencer, videographer, there's so many names, there's so many titles and so much work that falls under media. So I wanted to say that this is an inclusive space, and Black media professional, it touches literally all areas of the media industry and the media landscape. So everybody's supposed to be here. It's for all of us. And like I said, this final panel, I really wanted to kind of take some time to just talk through, we know what we're doing here in the present. We know the challenges we face, but we also know the power of our voices. And you can see with what was done this past election, this most recent election, that was people, that was Black folk, getting out, whether that was working on videos and campaign. Like, there were so many pieces that went into framing the story around what we were doing and the work that we did when it came to getting folk out to vote, specifically Black people out to vote. I can think about just since the media reckoning last year, how we've taken so much ownership. We've always had ownership over our stories, but I think that there was even more of a renewed focus to kind of, in some sense, organize and make sure that we're using Black photographers, we're using, Black editors to write about, Black people where we can. So the people that are included on this panel today, I think kind of really do speak and live in different corners of Black media. In a lot of cases, there is an idea of like this innovation and perspective. And I really just wanted to dive into that as we close out the Black in Media Day Summit today. So I'm going to pull our panelists in. And I am very much one who I like to have people introduce. I like them to put. I like the agency of saying, this is who I am. This is my voice attached to the work I do. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves really quickly and just kind of give you an idea of what they do, where they work, and then we're going to jump into the conversation. Yeah, so we have William Ketchum, Cory Murray, Tre'vell Anderson, and come on, backdrop. Yes, Tre'vell. And then Taryn Finley. All right, William, you can start, and we'll just go William, Cory, Taryn, and then Tre'vell.
Okay, great. So my name is William Ketchum III. I'm a journalist. I'm from Saginaw, Michigan, born and raised. Went to Michigan State, and right now I'm a senior editor at Mike, where I might cover basically like the intersection between arts and entertainment with the real world, whether that's through politics, identity, social justice, etc. But before that, I was a deputy editor at Vibe. I was a weekend editor at OK Player. I was a I was a managing editor at Revolt TV, and I've also freelanced a little bit of everywhere. Most of my career, I've covered hip hop for the most part, but I also covered things outside of music as well.
Cool. All right, Cory.
Hey, y'all. I'm Cori Murray. I'm the deputy editor at Essence. I started Essence at the age of 2, which would let you guys know, and you would understand why I've been there for over 20 years. Okay. But no, seriously, I have been there for over 20 years. And I am in a really fantastic place right now because for the last, I think we're going into year 3 of being Black owned again for the second time, because I was there for the first time. So it's been really interesting as I've seen mainstream media now discover us, and wanting to tell so many of our stories. But to look back at the legacy of Essence magazine, which now we're in our 51st year as a publication. And now we've really transformed into, a multimedia brand like so many other people, my colleagues here, what we're doing. But for us, what's really been very special, and something I have, all jokes aside, that I have really taken to heart is that we have been putting Black women first for 51 years. So we are not new to this. This is the core of what we do. And I truly love being at the forefront of storytelling that centers Black women. Hey, Taryn. Hey, y'all.
Hey, Cory. Hey,
Taryn
y'all.
was an intern.
Yes.
And then she became a staffer. So I'm going to pass it over to Taryn. Tearing it up. All right.
Yes, Cory. Okay, so this feels like a very full circle moment. Okay, first off, y'all, my name is Taryn Finley. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, graduated Howard University, studied journalism there, and at Columbia. I am the Black Voices editor and senior culture reporter at HuffPost, and this is a very full circle moment for me. I've been at HuffPost for 6 years, but before then, I did like a dozen internships at The Root, NBC, Radio 1. One of my favorites was at Essence. Cory was my boss. I was an entertainment and books intern. And so this feels like a very full circle moment for me. Because as you were saying earlier, Trey, and as this day has really just been about, really reaching back and pulling forward as you climb and really elevating the voices, like the different stories of Black people, of Black women, of Black non-binary, everyone like that. Like Cory has been just such an advocate. And so it's people like her that, is the reason why I'm able to sit here today and, tell my story and give my speech. And the reason why I am still even empowered to tell stories and uplift the voices of Black people in, in any innovative way that I can with the minimal resources that we all the time see in digital media. So yeah, that's me.
Hey y'all, I'm Tre'vell Anderson. I'm a freelance entertainment and culture journalist, host a couple podcasts. You know, we do it all. I started my career at the LA Times and was there for about 4 years. Then I went to Out Magazine, which is an LGBTQ publication, where I was their director of culture and entertainment. Then they laid me off, y'all. And so I've been freelance ever since. And I'm currently editor at large for Extra Magazine, which is a Toronto-based LGBTQ outlet. Like I said, I have a couple podcasts going on and all of that other stuff. So excited for the conversation. Also, again, shout out to Cori. She gave me the Billy Porter cover of Essence last year.
Wait, I was going to tell everybody, Tre'vell Anderson wrote our first GLAAD nominated article, print article for Billy Porter, which was last year. And also Billy Porter was the first openly gay man, gay person really on our cover. And it was in the hands of Tre'vell Anderson. And we can get into that later, but yes.
Yes. I am loving all the connections and the full circle moments. And this, we've seen throughout the panels today, how robust and how vital our connections are with each other as Black media professionals. And I think that that's one of the big things that I hope people take away is that, like, you're never alone in this industry. And there's always people here to try to uplift you where they can. So I'm excited to know just how everybody is connected, because a lot of it wasn't even planned. So that's perfect. You know, when I think of the future of Black media, I definitely live in Black storytelling. One piece that is always so vital and that I consider to be so vital is the fact that we need to have ownership. We need to own either the mediums through which our stories are being told, or, you know, for instance, we need to be the ones telling them. And Cori, with your experience, you know, you've been at Essence for, you said, what, over 20 years. And that means you've seen the complete shift of the media industry while working at a Black-centered publication. I think that is a very, very unique and also a very powerful vantage point that you have. What is your, you know, Essence is really our final Black-centered print publication that still prints. It's really, I would say, when you think of kind of legacy or like more traditional media, our last remaining large platform for Black folk. Where do you see the importance of Black ownership when we look toward the future? Because we continue to see so many of our publications they just die out. They just go away, or just move to digital, but they're gutted. So there's nothing really left of them.
Yeah. Thanks, Trey. And also, Trey, thank you for having me. And I want to thank you too for the care and thought you had to have this on Ida B. Wells' birthday. Hello, Barbie. Come on, bud. So shout out to you. We're one of the last few standards. Actually, I've seen some other publication. I believe Sheen is published. You know, I know some other niche publications, but it's interesting. I think there's still value in being one of the only ones, because I think we can all have stories, or all can kind of look into the future that, yes, now, I mean, I think I started following this Instagram account called Black Mag Covers. I think that's the name of it. And, you know, every magazine right now has a Black person on it, or a person of color. But I kind of know in my heart that's going to change in a bit. You know, we're very popular now. We're very hot. Everyone's aware, you know, we need to be acknowledged and covered. But you've been here before, and I have a feeling it's going to shift back to, you know, mainstream of what they find comfortable. So I love that for Essence, that will never be the case for us, because again, we will always have someone of color you know, on our cover and celebrating them. And we make no apologies for that. But I do think the fact that we are Black owned, it gives more fire under us to do it. You know, 2 years ago when, and I'm gonna wrap this up, when I think it was the first time there were maybe like 2 or 3 Black women on September covers. I remember like the New York Post did a whole piece about it. And I remember we were in a meeting saying like, why is that such a big, you know, like we've been doing it. And we really came up with this campaign that was like, Essence established, like our hashtag was established 1970. And then it was like a sort of a video reel of all of our covers, you know, and it was just, you know, again, like we've been doing this. So I think there's a lot of value in our ownership and why we do it, and that we will continue to do it.
Certainly. Yeah. And yeah, I remember that moment and thinking like, okay, y'all are late. Like we've had this on lock, Essence. And then when you think of all of the other publications of the past that also did that, but that also goes to show we know our history, we celebrate it, we can track it, we have it archived, but in a lot of cases, it doesn't live in the places where people should be accessing it and should be learning it. So yeah, I think that I'll throw the next question to Taryn. You know, with Black voices specifically, you know, Black voices lived in it kind of carved out a very specific niche as far as kind of moving from this, you know, HuffPost, very heavy, like blog driven type of post. Then you can think of just all of the stories that Black Voices has been a hub for, being able to keep us updated on what's going on. And I can think of something as heartbreaking and horrible as Trayvon Martin, when Tremaine was there, you know, writing. And there's just a lot of history with what Black Voices has been able to do, even housed within a, you know, white owned, you know, non-Black owned company. Where I think that in a lot of cases, there are still challenges of us telling our stories in these spaces that may, like Cori said, it might be trendy now, but when the trendiness is not the thing that you can attach the value to, and we're having to sit here and explain, no, we need to cover this story. What do you see as far as I guess you could say like the future, our ability in these spaces that we don't own? Do you foresee that to kind of maybe possibly down the road be a challenge for us when it comes to our truths being told wholly, authentically? Do you think that's something that we can work around, or you've been able to work around? I'm curious to know what you see in that space.
Yeah. Oh, can I be honest, y'all?
I want you to be.
So, there has been, you know, a definite legacy that has been built, you know, at Black Voices. A lot of people don't even realize or know that Black Voices was here long before HuffPost was even a thought. And, you know, I feel that. I feel that heaviness. I know a lot of people who are working, you know, at especially like Black verticals underneath, you know, white-owned publications. I know they feel that too. And to what Cori was saying, when Black is trendy, when it's in the news, when, you know, when everyone else is paying attention, where we've always been paying attention, you see where the resources are. And then when that goes away, all of a sudden the resources go away as well. Mm-hmm. And that will continuously be an issue. Not only will it be an issue for Black journalists, but it will be an issue for media, period. It'll be an issue for this country, because the problem is our stories are seen as niche. Even the intersections of our stories are seen as niche. And so I think it's really important in these positions, like especially like wherever you are, but when you're working with and at these white publications, white-owned publications. And like, I miss Black Girl Magic headquarters so much. That's Essence. I miss that so much because, you know, there was no question when there were certain stories, and, you know, not even just certain stories, but also certain feelings, whether it be collective joy, collective mourning, collective whatever, like you felt seen. And so in these newsrooms where that is few and far between, it is so important to remember your why. It's so important to, you know, really stand firm in the stories that you want to tell and are going to tell. And it also is important to give yourself grace, because you are not going to, you know, like, you are not a safety net. You are not a diversity safety net. And I think a lot of publications treat Black people who, you know, run these verticals or you know, may cover Black culture or, you know, politics or whatever. They treat them as a safety net, and that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to make sure that you remember your why and you're going after that, because no one else in the newsroom that isn't Black, the white people in the newsroom, they are not the safety, like they carrying on about their day. They go into yoga after work. They're doing this, that, and the third. So I think it's really important to, you know, to do that. But also to, when you are going to like stand up and exert that energy and use like your tokens. I feel like we all have like a few tokens that we're given for, all right, this is the battle I'm gonna pick today. All right, let me save my tokens because I already know that ain't worth it. I'm fighting for this bigger monster. I'm fighting for, you know, our ERGs to, you know, get compensation. I'm fighting for, you know, these bigger stories to get done. I remember during Nipsey Hussle's funeral. So essentially, I was not waiting, but like I kept putting a bug in the trends editor's ear and other folks' ear, like, all right, like, what are we doing? Like, what's the plan? Do we have an audience plan? Do we have, you know, this, that, and the third? And it was crickets. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. Since usually, you know, we have designated teams that, you know, do organized planning for funerals. And, you know, big celebrity funerals and things like that. I'm like, okay, all right, since y'all not gonna do it, let me go ahead and do it. And y'all, they didn't even know that the funeral was going on until like I essentially galvanized a team. And for context, Black Voices is essentially, you know, me galvanizing like Black folks around the newsroom to tell these stories and just like being super innovative and crafty. And I really appreciate the Black people that are like left at HuffPost, because they are amazing. They are godsends. Like,
Taryn, I'm curious,
mm-hmm.
that day, your newsroom, like how many Black people were there in
the newsroom? That day specifically,
or just that time period? I'm just curious.
That's a good question. A lot more than today. I will say that. And you know, that's due to attrition rates. That's due to layoffs. That's due to all of these things that end up disproportionately impacting Black employees. So there was a team of 4 of us working on the funeral, and I recall someone was getting married. My coworker, who was sitting right next to me, she was it was her last day before she was going off to go get married, and her boss had bought an Elvis impersonator into the office. So while the funeral was going on, while we're like pumping out all of, like, it's literally a breaking news situation. I've never seen that kind of treatment in any other breaking news situations. So when things like this happen, it reminds me even more so to ensure that our stories are at the forefront, and that I'm not backing down, and that, you know, we are, you know, being loud. I used the token that day, by the way. I definitely used the token and let them know, like, this is not cool. Like, in any other situation, this wouldn't have been able to fly. And we're sitting up here crying at Nipsey Hussle's funeral, like trying to pump out these stories. And there's an Elvis impersonator right behind us. It's not okay. So, Trey, that was a very long-winded answer to your question. So if that trend continues, yes, media will continue to be in trouble, as it already has been. But I do think that it is important that we carry what we can, and that we aren't trying to kill ourselves in that process.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, that can be so discouraging to the blacks. I mean, like to the little black staff that's already there, because you have such a heavy weight of responsibility, because you're like, okay, if this is the only shot that this publication has at doing this, and I'm one of 3 black people, I'm one of 2 black people, then I have to do this right. I can't even, you know, like, I can't even trust myself to delegate this to someone else, because they won't do it justice. Yeah. Right. So you know, so along with what you just said, Taryn, it's important just to really realize the impact that things like that can have on the black staff that are there.
Right. Yeah, there is definitely, and that brings back my own memories of other instances where either we've lost someone, or there is a moment for the black community where, because it's niche, we just have to roll on. You know, we have to just act like, okay, it's a regular day. We can talk in our group chats or the Slacks or whatever and comfort each other. But outwardly, there's no real respect or recognition of what is being experienced, except for last summer when everybody wanted to send out statements and say, we care for you, we're here for you. But it's like, okay, well, where's this energy all the rest of the years we've been working in media? Now, one thing that, and it was very, when I think of, and we'll make a bit of a shift, because when I think of black media and kind of it's really going through an evolution in a sense when you think about it. So we have all of our Substack newsletters that people are coming out with, honestly, with social media, like influencer culture, even for, if you work in like a more traditional media setting, you're basically your own hub. You know, people they come to you, they know what your beat is or what you cover. We're all individual voices that are accessible, something like Black in media as well. I'm going to ask Tre'vell, what, at this point where we are, where we can, you know, if you have your full-time job at a non-Black owned place, you do your stuff there, but then you have a whole wide open lane to where you can tell whatever Black stories you want to. What do you think our responsibility is to take advantage? Because sometimes people are tired. You know, you get home from work, you don't want to do nothing else. But what do you think our responsibility is, or do we have a responsibility to really use our influence, micro influence or macro influence, or use our resources, our skills, to take advantage of these opportunities that we have outside of just living in, you know, our full-time job bucket or whatever? Because I think we are in a unique situation where you don't have to wait to tell stories if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is, so I'm one of those people who believes that you can set and decide for yourself how you want to show up and move through particular spaces, right? So if you want to be that Black person, like I was at the LA Times, that wanted to tell Black stories, that, you know, baby, we talking about the nignogs today and all day, all right? You know, I can do the white people too, okay? but my focus is on Black people, then you can do that. But also, if you aren't interested in that for whatever reason, then you don't have to do that either, right? If you want to just go to work and collect your check, I get it. I completely understand. But for those who are interested in telling Black stories, for me, it was about making sure that I that I did not just have to reserve that to something else. I wanted to bring that into the space that I was working in. Now that meant for me having to do some extra work on the side, right? Doing the white people stories that they were caring about, but then going the extra mile and going to this event or, doing this extra interview. A lot of times in my experience, the editors just, did not think that the stories I was interested in doing would get clicks, that people would be interested in it, that it would serve a particular need. And so I ended up doing the stories that they wanted me to do to satisfy those assignments, but went above and did extra work to do the stories I wanted to do. And then once they started realizing that people were clicking on the stories, realizing that it was serving a particular need, it allowed me to, at one time, completely focus on, my beat was diversity in Hollywood with a focus on Black and queer film. And to have that type of job at a mainstream publication within the first 3 years of my career, that don't happen often, right? And so I took a great responsibility to make sure that I was being as inclusive and as expansive as possible in my coverage. But I think it's ultimately about what you want to do and how you want to move through spaces. And not everybody's interested in only telling Black stories. And part of that is because we have a specific idea of what a Black story is, right? Which buys into and perpetuates these ideas of, where Black people are supposed to show up. When in reality, every type of story can be a Black story, whether you're talking about what's going on in Congress, or whether you're talking about what's going on in the beauty industry or cannabis or whatever the case may be. Black people, we everywhere. We do it all, honey. It's all Black stories, but oftentimes our frame of thinking makes us think that, Nipsey is a Black story, right? Or, whatever Kevin Hart doing today is a Black story. But it can be more expansive and broader than that. And so I encourage people just to kind of recontextualize what it means to be a Black storyteller, and figure out what I think Gia said this earlier, or somebody on one of the panel said it earlier, figure out what your purpose and what your goal and what your focus is, and then figure out how you can, bring it to the center of what you do and not just have it on the margins.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question. My bad.
Yeah. You were perfect. No problem. Like that was, and I want y'all to remember, this is there's literally no wrong answer. I mean, there could be if we were talking about something off, you bring in a point about ferns. We're not talking about ferns right now. But yes, as far as what y'all have been saying, they've been perfect, because I really want this to just be a conversation about, because it's so nuanced. There's so much nuance to Black storytelling. I just think that you all bring in very, very strong vantage points. And this isn't something I think we oftentimes talk about just what we do just in the present. But a lot of times I'll sit and think of like, what are we going to look like? What are our outlets going to be? What are our means for like disseminating information about Blackness? How's that going to look in 10 years? Just because we've seen in the last 3 years, everything implode very quickly within the media space. So yes, no wrong answers. And William, I'm curious for you, where do you see, are there any spaces or places, outlets, even like writers that you think are that you consider to be very, very innovative when it comes to approaching the idea of sharing the Black experience in some way?
I'm sorry about that. I got a call and it like right when you were talking.
Oh no. Okay.
So the question one more time.
Do you have any outlets or writers? I'm trying to get an idea for you. Where do you see a place, an outlet, a person that is doing a very innovative job as far as sharing the Black experience? You know, maybe giving us a different angle in that we just don't see.
To me, and this may sound a little off considering some of the news of the past 2 weeks, but for me, one of the standards for doing that is the Undefeated at ESPN. I think they do a lot of really smart work over there. They focus less on keeping up with the news cycle and more on saying things that are thoughtful, more on covering things that they believe need to be covered, more on sharing perspective and cultural context. So I think that in terms of the Black perspective, that the Undefeated does the best job. I also like a lot of the work that Amaka is doing right now. AVA Ani is the editor over there now, and they're doing a lot of really powerful work as well. But I mean, outside of those two publications, there are, a lot of great writers. There are always great writers.
Right.
AVA Ani, Natalasia Whaley, Kiana Fitzgerald is doing a lot of great stuff on mental health. Taryn, you're amazing. There are a lot of phenomenal Black writers out there. It's just a matter of getting them the type of outlets and even like Craig Jenkins, right? I'm a Pulitzer finalist. I'm Soraya McDonald, another Pulitzer finalist, right? There are a lot of great writers. It's just a matter of trying to get them the space to do their work. Oh, and also Naima Cochran as well.
Awesome. I was gonna be like, you might need to drop these names in the chat so people.
I know. Spell the Amaka site. What is that?
AMAKA. But if you go to AVA's social media, I believe she has a link there.
Okay.
But I believe it's called Amaka Studio. AMAKA.studio.
All right.
Also, you will.
Say what?
Yeah.
Shout yourself out. You as well.
Look, man, you guys already shouted me out by having me here, so so I'm just chilling.
We are glad that you joined us.
For sure.
And I'll ask Cory this, and because of the space that you're in, you have had the opportunity to, with Essence, it's almost like a different rule book than a lot of us have to go by when we think of the stories that we're writing and creating, and in a lot of cases having to pull that. You're thinking in two boxes. So I know this is great. I know I want to do it, but it's Black centering. So my editor might ask me 1,000 questions and then say it doesn't matter, or they're not interested. I might pitch something and the editor doesn't want to pick it up because they don't understand the value of it. Do you think that, I think a lot of times there is a value placed. So a lot of times the Black stories that get the most traction, you could say, or the most reach, a lot of people will attach the value of that piece to the outlet it's coming from. And outlet does not necessarily beget quality. So, somebody might be writing on their blog or might be writing for maybe a lesser known publication, but that doesn't mean the story that they're telling is of less value. Where do you see, for Black writers and like Black creators specifically, do you think there'll ever be like a divesting from that value structure, or is it something that we may have to just continue to work around as we create?
Yeah, I think personally, I think we're starting to see a little bit of it now, because there tends to be I'm starting to see a shift, especially from, because I've been here a long time. So I've seen this tide where there's a lot more value put on the name or the writer or the journalist, as opposed to the publication that they may be associated with. I saw this very clearly in our coverage of celebrity. We had one, I'll share, we were negotiating one cover subject, and the rep said to me point blank that he didn't need us because his client had more followers than most people in the world. You know what I mean? Like, this person had over 70 million followers. So for her doing media was just a courtesy. Like, you know, he didn't say this, but it was almost like she just likes taking pictures, you know. But what I took away from that, he was like, he didn't need us to tell her story because she could tell on her profile. We've been seeing, case in point, Asia Naomi King, you know, when she announced her pregnancy. I mean, it was one thing to announce her pregnancy, but then she went on Instagram and said she had 2 miscarriages. You know, that kind of story, you know, would have came to us, or, you know, HuffPo or LA. I mean, you know, come on, like, that's a story they would have saved for us, but now they're taking it into their own hands. So that's the celebrity bucket of it. But I have started noticing people are going to the celeb for their news, as opposed to coming to the outlet. And one other layer of it, I want to say, safe space. Yes, we are legacy. Yes, we're still in the game. Yes, we are scale, but we also have a very small team now because media is changing. So this time last year, there was an editorial and content team of 33 people. When we had our furloughs in September, we went down to 9. So what we couldn't do was take that time to go out and report stories like we did a year ago. Or if something was trending, we didn't have time to go get an original quote. So now we're doing a lot more aggregated content. So yeah, it's still Essence, but it would pain me because I'm like, we don't have time to go do this. We got to go chase this story. We got to put it up. We're kind of, you know, starting to shift out of that. And like sometimes now we'll pause and say, and shout out to the people who still have journalism at heart. They're like, no, I want to get an original quote. I'm like, thank you for reminding me to do that, because I was just like, we need a traffic boost right now. And everybody's over here talking about this. So I just need you to cover that because we need to pull up traffic. But, you know, but she was like, Cori, let's try it. I have an in. I think I can get something original. And I was like, thank you. So that's where it's a weird place Essence is right now. I don't know about you other guys, you know, and how the others and how your staffs are structured, but that's something we deal with. But I did want to, before I wrap, I did want to shout out what William said about the undefeated, which one thing I respect them for, and something that we haven't done in the past, but I would love us to get to, is their criticism. I believe it's Soraya, who's the film critic. I mean, goes there. I mean, all the things for years we would talk about on the side, be like, that movie was horrible. But she goes there and she does it in a very smart and critical way about, you know, Black film. And I remember reading, I think it was her review of, it might've been Queen and Slim. And I was like, we could have never said this. You know, because of the other things we have, to Trey, to your point, that we have in play, you know, so. Yeah.
I wanted to shout out some people, and then I want to say something to what Cori was saying. I want to shout out Darian Simone Harvin, who has her own newsletter, Beauty IRL. She does amazing reporting at the intersection of race, culture, and beauty. She's amazing. Shout out to Kelly Carter. She don't need no help because, you know, she doing what needs to be done. But shout out to Kelly Carter. I want to shout out Shar Jossell, who is an entertainment journalist and media personality and great person. Katie Barnes, who's over at ESPNW. They're doing a lot of great work over there. Zach Stafford. Brooke Obie is now in charge of Refinery 29. They're doing some really great things. But I wanted to say something to what Cori was talking about in terms of, you know, the role that celebrity plays in terms of the future of Black media. We do have a lot of these celebrities, or maybe it's their team, who feel as if they don't need the press in the ways that they historically have. And so no media, let alone Black media, gets access to them for the interviews. And then if they do give an interview, it goes to the New York Times, or it goes to, you know, some white writer at some white publication. The difference of what we add and the value that we add as Black publications and as Black writers is that necessary cultural context and perspective that John or Tyler or whomever isn't going to give you in that story. So you can give the New York Times 3 interviews over the course of 3 months and get that story because you want that visibility that comes with it. But ain't nobody gonna engage with the story. But our publications and our writers know something different, and we can add that into the story that we're telling via personal experience or just research or whatever the case may be. And so it's important that when we have conversations about the future of Black media, that, those non-journalists, like those PR professionals, right, are in tandem with us in getting the necessary access that we need. And more so, the Black celebrities who we need and we want, they need to get their white woman publicists in order. Okay, maybe it's a white man, who's gay, in order, and let them know of the importance of Black media and Black journalists, because we can't do it on our own, right? Essence is going to do everything that they can till the wheels fall off, right? But if they don't have the necessary Black talent who pull in the advertising dollars, who pull in the clicks just by the nature of their existence, saying yes and reaching out to Essence, then Essence ain't gonna be here in a minute, or it's gonna be a sham of its former self. And that's what we don't want. And so I think, it's just all of this about our survival as Black media professionals. It just goes greater than just our sector of the industry. Everybody has a hand to play in it.
And, because of the trouble with access, one of my new perspectives as a journalist is I just do as much coverage as possible that doesn't rely on access anymore. Like if I can get a writer that has something really interesting to say that doesn't, that doesn't rely on the person we want to answer questions, then I think that, then that becomes a lot more valuable. And ironically, it ends up attracting some of the celebrities who want to talk to us in the first place when they realize what we have to say,
That reminds me of when Sylvia Bell got her big story, her first big story, the Black China one. Remember, she didn't talk to Black China at all. She talked to everyone around. And I thought, when she explained why she did it, it was really brilliant. And I don't want to hijack this about celebrity journalism, but after a while covering celebrities, they are so media trained that they're only going to give you the same, or very, even people you think you're vibing with and whatever. I never forget someone, we had Erykah Badu did an interview with the New York Times, and then she did an interview with us. She spent 3 days with our writer. And then when she did the New York Times, she gave the same quotes. I think there was only 1 or 2. And my writer called me like, I thought we were vibing. And I was like, girl, anyway, all that to say, but I remember that really in a big way that Sylvia did, to your point, Will, like sometimes it's other people and their analysis that makes a better story than, yeah.
I had a few other good writers to shout out.
You said what? Well, drop them in the. We can do that at the end because this is the last one, so we need to go over for shout out time. That's totally fine because I love that's what today is about. Literally, us accessing and learning and coming across new stories and new writers that we may not have been exposed to. So that's why even the sharing story element of Black and Media Day, I wanted to do that so people could build community around writers that are stories, video creators, whatever, that they may not have access. So we're going to make time for the shout outs. I did have a question for Tre'vell, and this is, I think that one of the things that excites me the most about where we can go with our stories and how we can continue to expand them is when I think of the Black queer community, when I think of like the Black trans community, I can think of Essence having Billy on the cover. How many, the demo is mainly women, Black women, how many Black women may have been exposed to his story that didn't know it? Maybe they may know who Billy Porter is, but have never in some way in detail read it. They trust Essence to know, okay, you put Billy on the cover. So there is a reason that you are wanting to share this person, this man, this content, this perspective with us. Tre'vell, I guess what excites you the most? I think when I think of language, the fact that we're saying and we're using words like, whether it's, related to people understanding and having conversations around trans identity in the Black community, a conversation that for a lot of us was either a no or just never brought up when it comes to homosexuality, homophobia, just all of these words that for a long time for members of the Black community that identify as queer and trans, uncomfortable. You might feel ostracized. So I think it is exciting for me that this language and these conversations, and there's this crossover now, and it's an opportunity to where we can learn, and we can also make space for each other in a way that I haven't really seen. And I feel like something like Pose definitely played a key role in driving that conversation. But what do you think the importance of just a simple recognition, like the fact that you have MJ, and so, Angelica, like all of the coverage that we've gotten of the community most recently, what do you think the importance of that is as far as the long line view?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying, as a non-binary person of trans experience who's also Black, I want to say that I'm excited about the future of Black media as it relates to LGBTQ coverage, within the Black community. But to be quite honest, I'm also skeptical because we still, working against a lot of isms and obias and deep-rooted stuff, right? That said, there are people in a variety of positions who are trying to push the community along via the press, right? And Essence is a great example with the Billy cover, with recognizing the ladies of Pose at the Black Women in Hollywood event last year before, one of them years recently.
Last one in person.
The last one in person. And I think that goes a long way at recognizing and pushing people forward and bringing those narratives to the center. I think ultimately, though, it's about having a more expansive idea, again, of what is a Black story and what we should be concerned about as Black people, right? We talk so much about liberation. We talk so much about, the fight for equality from a Black lens, but that Black lens more often than not only includes cis-identified Black men, maybe cis-identified Black women, right? For the rest of us queer and trans folks, listen, we still holding on, right? We got a little bit of that support last year, but even some of the support that we got has waned along with all of the white interest in our issues, right? And so I think it's important for us who work in Black media to stand from a place of an expansive conception of what Black identity means and what it looks like, so that we are being as broad in our coverage and as broad in our lens as possible, because it is only through the centering and the inclusion of queer and trans people that we as a Black community will find that liberation promised land that we say we're working toward, because y'all can't be free unless we free too. And so if you're not interested in telling our stories for whatever reason, or somehow our stars don't muster enough attention, right? And so therefore don't make the covers. And that goes to the community, right? Not being interested in these types of stories, then we'll never get to that place that we're trying to get to. And so I think it's important for all of us as consumers, as writers, as other media professionals, just to constantly interrogate our place and our role in these conversations, and be the allies and the accomplices that we want other people to be. We need to be them for queer and trans folks and queer and trans stories as well.
All right. Yes, I think that intersectionality piece is what we're going to continue to have to work on. But the good thing is that at least the conversations are happening now. And
I'll add and say that I actually pushed myself to do it outside of June. But it's a conscious thing. I have to be like, okay, well, what's this part of the story that we have to do? Yeah.
Yes. We are queer, we are trans all year round. And we are also Black all year round, and Black in media all year round. So
Amen.
Okay. And I'm gonna bring in Brianna. We're gonna jump to questions, and I have one more final question after we do the Q&A section for y'all. But I'm gonna bring in Brianna Tripp, and again, she is our experiential programming manager, and she helped pull all of the summit together today. Literally a godsend. Blessed to have her in my life. And she'll be doing the asking the questions that you all sent in. What's good, Brianna? Uh-oh. Yes, we can see you. Oh.
No.
I feel like, okay, you can try again.
There we go. I see my. I can't hear anything. Okay. Nice to see you. I have a couple of questions.
It like sounds like a transformer.
Is it?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot.
You might need to go out and come back in. That StreamYard light ain't loyal.
Yeah, that's the second time some AirPods have kind of made the audio cut up a little bit. So yes, we'll let her go out and come back in. I know one question was, wait a minute. Okay, let's see if this will work.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. What are you doing? Okay. So, can everyone else see me though? Okay, great. Okay, so the first question is, I'm sure that all of you probably get a ton of DMs or emails asking for like mentorship or advice. So like, what is the best way for someone to get in contact with you if you even have the room to mentor or have, coffee chats, things like that?
This is something that I committed myself to doing more this year. Because I just realized that I missed a lot of DMs, a lot of emails and all of that in previous years. And I think especially with kind of like the pandemic forcing us to like sit down and evaluate what's important to us and why we even do the things that we do in the first place, I realized I remember the importance of that. So I'm very open to taking on mentees. I like literally from the last Black in Media session or panel that I did, like folks just hit me up like, hey, like, can I get a moment of your time? Like, can we just talk on the phone? And I'm like, I'm very cool with that. Like, I don't always answer just because of my schedule and things just fall through the cracks. But for folks who are consistent, like, yeah, Krista is saying in the box, like folks who are consistent, like I see that, and that persistence like is definitely in your favor, because if it's not bumped to the top of my inbox, I might not see it. You can DM me, you can do whatever, like I'm bougie. Like you can literally have my number. Just don't blow my phone up. Like literally. But yeah, I'm very open to like helping people with phone calls. And potentially like I don't drink coffee like that, but like tea dates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Zoom calls, stuff like that.
Yeah, same. I do want to just to highlight the point that Taryn made that, like, we busy, honey. Okay. And so, having 50 people reach out to you wanting to do, even if it's a 10-minute call, baby, that's a lot. But that's why panels like this and this whole day are important. It's going to be recorded. A lot of these conversations that happen where people give the game of it all are on YouTube, right? So like part of it is also just like finding the resources that already are out there where we have already shared a lot of this type of stuff and using that to help you. And then following up with a very specific question via DM or email. I can take 5 minutes and answer a very specific point. That is a lot easier for me to do than say, 15-minute conversations about this trash industry of ours. You see what I'm saying? And so I think it's just about using all of the resources that are available, and then getting involved in some of these organizations. The Journalists of Color Slack is a great opportunity. I'm on the NABJ board, so I'm going to shout them out. I know they ain't perfect, y'all, but we're working on it. And so use all of these resources that are available to you, because that will provide, I think, a lot of that foundational stuff that you might be interested in.
Tre'vell made a great point. So I do my best to respond to people, because I know that God knows I wouldn't be where I am in my career if people didn't help me out. Right. So I do my best to give back in that respect, but it's always most productive if when you hit somebody up, you have a specific question you want to ask. Have 1 or even 2 specific questions that you need help with, that you want to ask. The last thing you want to do is hit up somebody and just say, I need a mentor, because I think that at that point, you aren't really demonstrating that you have direction. And even if you want to, even if you want to even if you have the wrong direction, I think that a lot of journalists will tell you what you're doing wrong, as long as it's clear that you're doing something, right? So if you have a real question to ask, that's usually the best way to begin an actual conversation with somebody. Also, you can email me, and I do respond to my email, but you should probably just DM me somewhere, because my DMs are much less cluttered than my email.
So I'll end it by saying my email inbox is trash. I actually found out that I'm in some group where people have complained that I don't respond to emails. So I'm just going to take that L, because it is what it is. But I'm not saying, and that's a joke, but it's not a joke. So if you want to get through, though, I think it's about being persistent. But I think another unspoken thing is, I'm at a legacy brand. I can't tell you how many times I get an email or a pitch, and the first thing someone says, it's been my dream to be in Essence. So already right there, I'm knocking you down, because that's everybody's dream. So what does get to the top for me is sometimes you reach out to people who can be advocates for you that maybe I respect. Like case in point, one of our former executive editors, Linda Villarosa, who, has now gone on to the New York Times. She, did one of those beautiful pieces in the 1619 Project. She hit me up a couple of weeks ago with a writer that she's been teaching. That stays at the top. I already have that pen. I know I need to get back to her. So I think it helps when, especially if you, you want to get in at a publication or an outlet that is big, try to, instead of trying to get to that person, maybe try to get advocates or people who have worked with that person and help them advocate for you. Because know that sometimes I'm not responding because, I don't want to use a new writer, but Tre'vell said it best. We busy. There's a lot of stuff in my inbox. I actually, side note, I had to have a conversation with a publicist the other day because I interviewed somebody in May. And she's like, are you going to put that story up? And I'm like, what? You want me to have time to write now? Anyway, go ahead.
Also, as obvious as this is going to sound, be respectful when you hit people up. And even if they don't hit you back immediately, or if they hit you back saying something that you don't want to hear, show respect either way. Because I've had people hit me up asking for jobs, and then when I don't offer a job, they sound like I'm Kanye not being able to get his shoes made at Nike. and it's like you haven't made college dropout yet. Like you can't say that.
Yeah.
Period.
So but I think that most journalists who are established in some way or another, they're going to be respectful because they know what it's like to work their way up. So so just be respectful to them too.
Okay, great. Those were great responses. I hope that helped them. And then the last question is probably more specifically for Cory and Taryn, but do you foresee your publications partnering with Black college students still in the future, or do you see a shift in the partnership between like helping out or reaching out to HBCU students or Black students in general? And I'll add that I didn't go to an HBCU, so my college didn't really have a connection with any publications, especially Black ones. And so I've seen in the last like couple of years of programs specifically for HBCU students. So I think that's their question, but that's to be around.
Yeah, no, I love that. I went to Howard. Cory went to Hampton, so we both are HBCU.
Real HU.
Oh, you sure? You sure about that?
At least you shot. Let me stop.
Okay. All right, Hampton Institute. You got me there.
Fair.
But yeah, no, that's something that like I've definitely been pushing for, and so under Verizon Media, we're under BuzzFeed now. HuffPost is under BuzzFeed now. Under Verizon Media, there was a set program that was more so like company wide and reached out to like all of the properties. Now that we have transitioned to BuzzFeed, I have to see what that process is company wide. However, I'm always just like, especially my Howard babies, I'm literally always in contact with them. Like someone hit me up last week about a job opening, and I'm like, yeah, girl, like, and we literally just chatted. Like I've never, met her. It was very much a cold call. And, I gave her advice on what to do, how to do it. The issue is there are right now I came into HuffPost as a fellow. And there are no fellowship or internship programs currently active. However, that is something that I think they are trying to reinstate. And in that case, like I'm literally always loud in the newsroom about HBCUs and being more accessible, because I applied to HuffPost as a Howard graduate and was denied. But all of a sudden, when I got a Columbia degree under me, okay, all right, we're checking for you. And that's honestly just been industry wide. So yes, that is, if I have anything to do with it in the works, hopefully, fingers crossed.
I will add, we currently have a HBCU, and all jokes aside, she is a Hamptonian, but she came through Facebook. She's a Facebook fellow for news. So we are currently working with her right now. So I would say that right now, because we are still virtual, we haven't had any plans to when we're going to go back in the office. So, we usually have an internship program. So we're still trying to figure out how our internship program is going to work virtually. But I would say go, like Taryn said, go through these fellow programs. And then you can go and ask them to, be placed at the LA Times or Out, or, the Undefeated, or at Essence, because that's what this, I just know about this one example. And all of this money that these huge social media platforms are spending right now, it's definitely a way to go. If the actual outlet doesn't have a program, I think that's another smart way to get in.
Can I just add a quick tip for students in particular? If you're not involved in the various journalism organizations, you need to get involved. If you can't afford it, if you can't go to the convention, email somebody at the organization. They will find money for students, particularly if you're from the HBCU, okay? But they will find money to give you that professional development opportunity. Oftentimes, I feel like we be like, oh, I don't have $200 to go to the NABJ convention, and so we just stay home, right? But if you open up your mouth, if you email somebody, and then now email me, we can find somebody who got the coins to front it for you. So you got to take a little initiative, you know, when the programs aren't readily available.
Yeah. I was an NABJ fellow for one of the early Unity, and that's how, yeah, I did that. Yeah.
And student projects, NABJ student projects, look into that. That's how I was able to go to NABJ for free a couple years when I literally had only 2 dimes to my name.
I'm Tre'vell. Like, thank you for being like, yo, actually, fuck emailing somebody. Just email me.
Yeah, it's that energy that we need. Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone, you know, taking the time out to answer these questions. Go ahead and pass it back to Trey to do the last question of the session.
You're muted, Trey.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Brianna. And yes, those are all great advice. So I'll take them up on that. I think I dropped it in the comment section, but everybody's social media information is in the bottom of the thread. I'm gonna keep saying that so people know. But you might have to refresh this link for the stream so that it'll update it if you logged in and haven't refreshed since we've been on. And just to close, and this is fun, you know, this is a pretty light question. You know, I'm curious to know from each of you, and you've given us a lot of great thinking points and things to kind of expand on, you know, once we leave the chat today. But when you think of a Black story that you would like to see told, or you would like to tell, what is a story, you know, Black centering? It can be anything that you want to tell and you feel you have not seen anywhere. I'm looking at who looks like they're not as thrown by the question. Go ahead, William.
I really hate being that guy, but like the idea that I have is a book idea, and I got to write the book before I can say it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, we respect
I got one.
Yeah,
I got one. And I am actually working on the book, so it's gonna be general. But like, I'm very interested in the archive, particularly when it comes to queer and trans people, because oftentimes, you know, particularly for trans folks, you know, folks like to think we just dropped out of the sky in 2014. You know, and so I'm interested in stories that go back into the archive and unearth stories of queer and trans people who existed before this current moment. I'd love to see somebody do something around the Queen of Disco, Sylvester. That's not the book I'm doing. Or, you know, I forget what's her name. The other name slips my mind, but like, I want us to go back into our archives and not just focus on, you know, the traumatic stuff in our archive, but also unearth some of those other stories that are there as well.
Well, I actually am kind of working on this as a project. So if I see anybody trying to copy, you ain't gonna do it like me, so it's fine. But I'm gonna come get you. No, but I do have a great lawyer. But
no, don't test her.
Okay. But I am. It is not that I haven't necessarily seen this story. I just haven't told it, and so I haven't seen myself reflected in the way that I want to see it reflected. I really want to tell the intergenerational story of joy through Black families, focusing on mine and kind of working my way out of that. But I just think that, you know, we just need more of it. We need to see more Black joy reflected in like super mundane things. And, you know, I just recall going to my grandma's house all the time and literally just feeling uplifted in joy and love. And I know that that is an experience that, you know, isn't necessarily specific to me, that I know that, you know, a lot of Black people do share. So I that is a project that I am working on, and that I hope that y'all support when it is out.
Love that.
This one's hard. So I can't really answer the question. It's not because I'm working on something secretive or anything. But I will say something that still I personally and professionally still circle around is global Black stories. Because, you know, while I know there's, you know, there's a lot of stories, you know, coming out of Africa and our lens on it, but I feel like there's some stories there that haven't been told about the Black American experience and the African experience, or the Afro-Brazilian experience, or, you know, there's a community of, I don't even know if they call themselves Black, but it's not Fiji, but it's another island. They did a movie about it a couple of years ago. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. But I think there's more layers. I think we're just really at the surface of telling stories about the global Black diaspora. That what I haven't seen are really rich stories. There's something if you all haven't watched it, I think it's worth it. It's on Netflix. It's a Afro-Brazilian rapper called Emicida. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he did sort of imagine a Black is King Afro-Brazilian version of his story, being a rapper. When I was first introduced him, I was told he was the Jay-Z of Brazil. But watching his story, he's totally not Jay-Z. He just raps. But in watching his story, I was just like, wow, I didn't know this about Black Brazilians. And the way he told it, which was really beautiful. And then in the way he married it with the music, and his own personal storytelling, but then the history of Afro-Brazilians. It just, I don't know. I just said, okay, now I want to know more. Like who are 10 other more artists that have this story across the globe. So that's what I'm interested in, and I don't see enough of.
So many, and there you have the nuance of what it is to be Black, and just all those spaces that we can continue to reach, and continue to share. So yes, we have so much. I won't even call it is work, but I don't even like saying we have so much work to do. We just have so many more stories to tell. Like, that's exciting.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I appreciate y'all. We ran over a little bit. Thank you so much for joining us for our first ever Black and Media Day Summit. I love that we closed on this note, and I think that this is a good way to push forward into the weekend, into the rest of our year as Black media professionals, until the next Black and Media Day. And yes, thanks for your thoughts. You know where to find their contact information. Use these resources. And I would say, clearly everyone said they might not answer immediately. It might take a week or two, but they're here to help how they can. So definitely take advantage of that. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Cory, you can get off if you need to, because I know you.
Well, I wanted to, can you take a screen grab of everybody?
Yes, I'll take one.
Okay.
Of everyone right now.
Black and Media.
Yes. Come on, the shirts, baby. We love some branding. Perfect. Got it.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, Cory.
I really love how everybody went into like selfie mode immediately. Everybody's like,
yeah.
Thank you, Trey. This is great. Like, congratulations.
Thank
First
you.
Black and Media Summit. Like, Y'all did that. This is so necessary. Congratulations, for real.
Thank
and it's free, like so accessibility. We love it.
We try. We gotta let the people know what they need to know, and we ain't gonna have no barriers of entry to get that. So, yes.
Question: is this going to be able to be able to stream online later or no?
Yeah, we recorded it, so we'll post it probably on our YouTube. And then I'm going to post them if I can, if they're not too long, or maybe like the Instagram and stuff like that. But we'll share the link so people can watch them, and if people missed it, they'll have a way to access it. So,
okay,
yeah.
No,
Awesome. Well, I'll pull y'all out. But thanks again for coming in. Thanks, Tre'vell. Thanks, William. Thank you, Taryn.
Sure.
And shout out to Tre'vell too, because Tre'vell wrote the Normani story. He wrote a Normani profile.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna pull him back in just so I can talk.
My bad. I zipped myself out real quick.
I was thinking about, and clearly her new song. I'm calling that the theme song for Black and Media Day this year. But yes, he wrote a dope profile of Mani. And now again, that has also come full circle because she dropped a new song and video today.
Go off, Tre'vell.
So
I'm just trying to pay the bills, y'all. Just trying to pay the bills.
I know that's right. Tre'vell, do you remember NABJ in New Orleans when Omarosa? I think we were sitting literally right next to each other.
Yes. Oh, yes, I remember. Yes.
I had to make that connection. I think that was the first time that we met.
It was a special moment.
It was.
Unforgettable. I remember hearing for people that were in that session. I was like, oh, what happened?
I was like, yeah.
A time. But yes, okay. I'll pull y'all back out for real this time. Thank y'all. And yes, that was our first Black and Media Day Summit. Black and Media Day is clearly still on. Again, it's also Ida B. Wells' birthday. I shared the link for the graphics and everything, but if you still haven't gotten them, feel free to drop your email in the chat, and I'll make sure that those are gotten out to you before the end of the day. Also, remember that, yes, Ashley, we were there. And also remember that through my Creativism, my professional development agency, I'm doing free career consultations for people that are participating in the summit today. So just click that link and fill out the form. And it's just, we can kind of connect and have a one-on-one chat because I wanted to have a way to kind of push forward everything that we talked about today. And, maybe this may have reshaped what you think and what you want to do. But yeah, you can sign up for one of those consultations by clicking that link at the top. It's pinned. And yeah, I feel like that's everything. Thank you, Brianna, for all of your help and helping pull this summit together today. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Follow Black and Media on Instagram. We're going to keep the movement. That's what I'll call it. We're going to keep it going there mainly. And then we also have our newsletter, which if you registered, clearly you registered for the event today, then we'll make sure that you're added to our newsletter so you can keep up with what we're doing there. And yes, again, thanks for making today a success. I am just super proud of the work that everyone is doing and how we continue to overcome. And yes, just always remember that you are here for a reason. You are Black in media, and we run this. Like this what we do. So thanks again, and we'll see you next year.